Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show where we give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Mark Ellis.
Welcome one and all to the best movie news show in the entire galaxy. My name is Mark, and on today's show, speaking of galaxy, Colin Trevorrow is out, Bad Boys for Life is still alive, and Josh Macuga makes noises I've never heard come out of a human being before. Who's joining me today, Ashley?
All's here is Dennis Zen.
Yeah, this is my first time on the early
Welcome.
edition of Movie Talk. Yeah, I know. Like when I pick up Schnepp in the morning, we're both like, and then when we get here, we're like, okay, time for the show.
It's fun to watch you guys roll in because there's no apology for being late to the meeting if it's at 6:30 a.m. You walk in at 6:15, it's like, well, you guys could have expected this.
Yeah. You get nothing. Nothing.
Also here is Jon Schnepp.
Hey, it's 7 in the morning.
Ooh, wow. So much energy. Also here, John Rocha.
Oh, that's wrong. Why was that all about? I just said all of a sudden I had this image of like the Muppet movie with Dennis and John just moving right along in the car. I know who's Fozzie. I know who's Kermit.
Yeah.
I absolutely know that situation.
On behalf of everybody here at Phenomenon, we are very excited to bring you guys a bunch of news stories today. And yes, we are going to be talking about the It screening that we went to last night. That's coming up in a little bit, but first we have huge news out of the Star Wars camp. What's up, Ash?
What was rumored, discussed, and speculated upon for some time now has finally come to fruition. Lucasfilm yesterday released a short statement saying that Book of Henry and Jurassic World helmer Colin Trevorrow is officially out as Star Wars Episode 9 director. Without giving a reason why or naming a successor, the statement simply read, Lucasfilm and Colin Trevorrow have mutually chosen to part ways on Star Wars Episode 9, the statement said. Colin has been a wonderful collaborator throughout the development process, but we have all come to the conclusion that our visions for the project differ. We wish Colin the best and will be sharing more information about the film soon. Mark, thoughts on Trevorrow exiting Episode 9 and who should be his replacement?
My thoughts on him exiting are that Star Wars is really good at press releases that involve firing directors. This has been what happens recently. If you sign on to do a Star Wars movie, you may not be the actual one directing it. And for like a lot of people had been throwing rumors out there that they didn't think that Colin Trevorrow was going to be the guy that actually directed Episode 9, even as far back as when he was touting Book of Henry. And it was kind of when Book of Henry came out and did not get stellar reviews. I thought the movie was really good. It was on the wall that Colin Trevorrow may not be long for a Star Wars life. Having said that, I'm a little disappointed for him, but I think that this is what Lucasfilm has showed of late, is that if you are not playing ball with Kathleen Kennedy from a creative standpoint, if your vision starts to differ, that's going to go one way, and that way is her way. So my question to the panel is simply, do you think that Kathleen Kennedy has too much power right now when it comes to making Star Wars movies? John Rocha, I'll go to you first.
Okay, well, here's the... I don't know if I necessarily 100% agree with that, because I think what's great about her is that when she sees it's not working, she makes a decision and gets out of there. Even if you're 5 months into shooting, she makes the necessary adjustments. You know, we see this with Kevin Feige and Marvel, right? Kevin Feige, you got to fit that movie into our construct. You can veer out a little bit. You can play around like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, but eventually you got to bring it back into the Marvel fold, how we want to see these movies go. And then Kathleen does is she gives these opportunities to young filmmakers, but things happen. I think there's a lot of factors that were involved here. I was never a big fan of his choice because Jurassic World, although great with action, I didn't think it gave us like interesting characters and a good storylines and stuff to enjoy. So when he was chosen, I was like, and then Book of Henry flopped, and that made me believe it certainly was on the table because of the past actions with Josh Trank and because of the past actions recently we saw with Lord and Miller, that Kathleen was going to make this decision. So a lot had to happen here. I think I'm okay with them making this decision because she's doing it early enough in the production process, early enough with the new script by Jack Thorne, who came in and did a rewrite of it. Like, it's early enough in the process. So although we may think she may have too much power, I think she's also wielding that power correctly because, as we've seen with Force Awakens and Rogue One, the movies make money and they come out and are well received by critics for the most part.
Yeah, Schnepp, obviously there's a bright side to this universe, and that would be that they made this decision before they really went into production, as opposed to having to endure another round of reshoots like what we got with Rogue One or what we are getting currently with the Han Solo movie. So do you see it the way Rocha does, that Kathleen Kennedy is making the right play here, or do you think that she's wielding a little bit too much authoritarian power here?
Absolutely not. Rocha, you're wrong. And just kidding.
Let me tell you what, you're wrong, Schnepp.
No, I'm wrong. No, you know what? I think Kathleen Kennedy is making the right choice because, especially with Star Wars, it seems stunning that they would fire Lord and Miller like 5-6 months into production after they've already gone through this entire pre-production casting and then they're shooting and then they get fired. I mean, Josh Trank was fired before they ever got to shooting. They had concept art for Boba Fett, they had a script, they had casting going on, but like they never had they weren't actually rolling yet. So to see a lot of, and obviously the Rogue One Edwards thing, that he didn't get replaced, he just got kind of sidelined a little bit for the reshoots. He was there. That's the whole DGA rules kind of thing coming in. So Star Wars is a very specific kind of thing that they want to. Once they locked in with The Force Awakens, I think they were like, we want to play in that sandbox, and we don't want to deviate too much from that sandbox. So Kathleen Kennedy is, I guess the ref, or what would you call her? The school, the person.
The boss.
She's the person who's in charge of the sandbox, So the principal, or whatever you want to call her, is like, so. By Colin, I feel bad for him, but it's not like he's the first guy to get hit hard. I mean, look at Lord and Miller; they were like removed, like with 3 weeks left of shooting. That hurts.
Yeah.
Like for him to get removed, it's like, look, he can join the club of people who've got fired from, him, Trank, and Lord Miller can go out and have a beer now. So
it's a pretty talented club that they have going. But I mean, Dennis, Rocha brought it up. We see this model working so well with Marvel because Kevin Feige is clearly the creative force driving those movies. And we see it not work well with the DCEU, where you have directors sign on, creative visions differ, and then they get fired. So why is it not working for Star Wars as well as it has worked for Marvel?
I'm actually a little surprised. Do I think she has too much power? I can't really say about that. But I feel like some of the stuff should have been nipped earlier in the bud. I mean,
well, is this early enough, I guess, to nip it in the bud?
I mean, you're doing a trilogy. You're doing 7, 8, and 9. These story plot points, all these things, these decisions, I believe should have been made a lot earlier. And sure, the creative differences through the script process with Colin Trevorrow, maybe he changed what he had pitched or changed what was going on. But in my mind, you should have. Because, I read some of those interviews talking about how, like, when they were doing 7, they still didn't really know what they were going to do with 8 or 9. It's like, man, it's a trilogy. You should know what you're doing. So I feel like, yes, if he's going a different way, they should change it and fix it and not have the Lord and Miller situation where they shoot it, like, 70, 80% done and change it. But I still feel like all these decisions should have been made a long time ago.
Yeah, when I was interviewing Colin Trevorrow when he was promoting Book of Henry, he said something that really spoke to me about the creation of Star Wars movies, is that it does feel like when you're a director and you get on board with these films, you are just one storyteller sitting at a giant campfire full of storytellers, and the stories get passed around. And so I guess that if he started something or he picked something up from Rian Johnson, it went around the campfire. Then when it came back, it was like a game of telephone, and he didn't like what he heard anymore. And that was very different than what Kathleen Kennedy wanted to work on. Now, the big question is, who's going to be replacing Colin Trevorrow to do Episode 9? There's a lot of people speculating that it's going to be Rian Johnson, for good reason, because he made The Last Jedi. And while we haven't seen that movie yet, we also haven't heard any negative press about the creation of that movie, about the shooting process, about the writing process. Rian Johnson has been saying that he got to make the movie he wanted to make. He wrote the Star Wars movie, he directed it, and it appears that all the hands were off, that he got to do whatever he wanted. So would that be the guy to logically follow up his own movie and say, this is how I see the trilogy completing? Do you bring in J.J. Abrams again, who has clearly started this new universe and he can finish it? Dennis, which way do you think Lucasfilm goes?
I think they're going to go with Rian Johnson. It's the easiest transition. He's already worked with all the actors. He's worked with the production staff. It's an easy. I thought they should have gotten someone for the whole trilogy. I thought they should have done like a Peter Jackson thing with Lord of the Rings. They should have got, whether it was JJ or Ryan, whoever, and done all 3 movies. But they decided to go the different route where they're going a different one for each chapter. So I think Rian Johnson stepping in is the easiest one. One director that I thought of, and I think a lot of other people thought of, was Duncan Jones. He tweeted out in response to people saying, hey, why don't you do Star Wars? He said he was happy doing smaller, indie, quirky sci-fi films. Probably didn't have the greatest time with what happened with World of Warcraft. You have someone like, you could get a Matthew Vaughn, or you have Denis Villeneuve doing Blade Runner. His sensibilities might be a little too dark for Star Wars, but if he could rein it back. But ultimately I think Rian Johnson is probably the best and safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that they do have one filmmaker making this new trilogy, and her name is Kathleen Kennedy, and she's hiring people that jive with that vision. Jon Schnepp, who should be doing episode 9?
I'd love to see JJ come back. You know, I know that he was like bummed to give the reins over to Rian Johnson because he was like, you know, when you're doing something this fun and this cool, to hand it over, you're sort of like, I still want to play in that world. And he said that so many times, multiple times. Everything I think that he did in rebooting Star Trek, I liked his Star Trek. So I would like to see him return to what he had started with The Force Awakens. I don't see any problem with either him or Rian Johnson continuing. I mean, if I had to pick someone else, I thought about Duncan Jones, and I was like, you know what? I like him in the small world just as a film goer. I like seeing his movies. I can't wait to see Mute. So I don't want to see him or Denis kind of have to be compromised in their visions, because I think anyone who's taken on Star Wars is taking on this world and understanding the world, the mechanics of the world. And it's not made to have, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. It's like, does it serve the story of Star Wars? So I think Rian Johnson and JJ, we haven't seen Ryan's film yet, but I have the utmost confidence in it. So I cannot wait to see his vision. And if it is incredible, then I would love to see him continue.
Yeah, Rocha, Schnepp makes a great point. We haven't seen The Last Jedi yet. It looks great. We're hearing great things about it, but we have not seen the movie yet. So do you think that we are going to get an announcement sooner rather than later that it could be Rian Johnson, or do you think they wait until they get the response from The Last Jedi?
Yeah, I think they're going to wait for the response from Jedi. And Jedi's the one that has had no problems, no issues, no reshoots, no scandals coming off of the set. And the thing is, Ryan shepherded this movie after the untimely death of Carrie Fisher. So there's something to be said about that. And there may be the reason, this is what I mean when I said at the beginning, there might be a lot of factors involved here. It might be the script changed so much that they started to see that, you know what, we should trust Ryan to finish this out. And I agree with Dennis. I think it's going to be Ryan in the long run, even though I'd love to see Denis Villeneuve's take on a Star Wars film, or Guillermo del Toro, who was here being interviewed by us and said that he was working on a Boba Fett, or on a Jabba the Hutt, like gangster type pick. So there's plenty of directors who would probably love to step in who are more seasoned than these young guys. But I think in the end, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be Ryan. And this is important. People should talk. The Carrie Fisher death changed everything. So they had to adjust the script all the time. So why not go with this? But, John, I said this years ago. I didn't like that they didn't keep JJ for the whole trilogy. I agree. JJ should have been doing the whole trilogy because, like with Peter Jackson, like you mentioned, that's the way you go. And I didn't understand why they were picking directors out way ahead of time. It just didn't make sense because things change through scripts. Things change through audience reception to what you're making in your films. So to me, it just didn't make sense that they were picking out these random people. But it does send a message, doesn't it, Mark? To young directors, like, if you're walking into this, don't mess around. Like, stay the course, or we're going to dump you even 5 months into production.
Yeah, and also with anything this big, I mean, you're going to be dealt a series of cards, and then later on in the game, new cards come in, and you're not sure how to handle that. And sometimes those are passing at Carrie Fisher. So those are things you cannot possibly foresee. So I'm not sure how much that played into the news story direction and whether that's where Colin Trevorrow and Kathleen Kennedy started to have their rift. But be interesting to see who they do ultimately decide on. I think it's probably going to be Rian Johnson, but maybe JJ has a heavy hand at producing. All right, let's move on to our next story, which involves another beloved franchise, Bad Boys for Life. Is it dead yet, Ashley?
Jerry Bruckheimer has officially given Josh Macuga an early wedding present. Just when it appeared the long-in-development sequel in the Bad Boys franchise with Bad Boys for Life was dead in the water, super producer Jerry Bruckheimer has revealed to Yahoo Movies that another writer has come on board that he hopes will breathe new life into the project. Citing its fair share of ups and downs, Bruckheimer cautioned that this is nothing new and offered some hope that it will finally see the light of day, saying, "Well, we've been developing it for I don't know how many years now, and we had a period of time where it got pretty close and then it drifted away a little bit, and hopefully it will drift back again. We have a new writer on it who's working on it right now, so that gives me encouragement." Rocha, do you believe we'll ever see Bad Boys for Life on screen based on Bruckheimer's comments?
Yeah, I think so. Bruckheimer's the man. I mean, if he says, I want to work on it. He's like Joel Silver. These guys are just dinosaurs of producers who've been doing it for decades and decades, and they still churn out material that people and audiences want to go see. So I think if he's talking about it, sure, you got to get the right script. Martin Lawrence is certainly sitting around not doing much, so he's got time. Will Smith is the big X factor. Can you bring him in? And if this new screenwriter does do, because Carnahan was a brilliant choice to revitalize that film, so if they get a writer who's on that kind of par, on that kind of level, to give us a more grittier, fun Bad Boys. I mean, what's the writers of 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street doing? Like, those guys should be coming in and doing it. If you get Lord and Miller, bring them in. Why not? They're perfect. They're not employed right now. They'd be great for a Bad Boys for
Just
life
get everybody
film.
who was working on a Star Wars movie to come over to Bad Boys for life.
So to me, I think it's certainly possible. If Bruckheimer says it's going to happen, then I think you have to say, yes, this is certainly now an even more real possibility than it was when Martin Lawrence said it was kind of dead.
You know who Jerry Bruckheimer's worked with in the past? Michael Bay. I'm just saying. If there's a big enough director along with a huge super producer like Jerry Bruckheimer to get this thing back off life support, it could be Mr. Bay. I'm not saying that's what I want. I'm just saying that's what it could happen. I personally think this movie will go down eventually. I think it's going to be released in theaters, but Dennis, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, because you cannot make a Bad Boys movie without Will Smith starring in it. I don't want to see one of these passing of the torch to two younger cops. I want to see Martin Lawrence and Will Smith still out there being the leads in the movie, a lot like what we saw in Lethal Weapon 4. I don't think it's going to happen in 3 years. I think it might happen in 5 years. What's your timeline for Bad Boys for Life?
Sorry to say to you, sorry to say to Josh Macuga, I don't think this movie's happening. Yeah. I mean, look, this is an older franchise. People are not clamoring for Bad Boys. Other than Josh Macuga, people don't really care about this franchise. And then you had Will Smith, who was box office gold at the time, especially when the second one had come out. You know, that era is kind of gone. Martin Lawrence, you mentioned, he's not doing anything. Of course, he'd love to come back here, but at that time, he wasn't a big name like Will Smith, but he was much more in the public entertainment eye. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. And the way that Bruckheimer's talking about it, he's like, yeah, we're working on it. We're he's just trying to say like, hey, we want to make this movie, but I just don't see it happening. You
wouldn't be excited to see Michael Bay come back and Tia Leone, and just a whole reunion to finish out the third one?
I mean, I would be.
But I think you're misjudging the male audience here.
Schnepp, what you have your pulse, you have your finger on the pulse of the kids out there. Are they clamoring to see Bad Boys for Life, and do you think we're going to get it based on Jerry Bruckheimer's comments?
Well, the kids out there don't know what Bad Boys is, but I mean, I think medium kids do. So I'm like, there's like the kids in high school, like, what do they keep talking about this Bad Boys thing? So it's like the kids in high school, Bad Boys, check out Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 2. They're really fun. That's what kind of put Michael Bay on the map, along with The Rock, and then all the rest of the stuff, don't watch it. That's how I feel about it. But and Pain and Gain. We can get into the Michael Bay thing. Me and Rocha can really go toe to toe with this Transformers garbage.
13 hours, great movie.
Hey, look, he's a good director when it comes to certain things.
When it comes to certain things, yes.
Should Michael Bay do Bad Boys for Life? Definitely. And bringing in, like, I like what you said, just bring everybody back, because that's the only way that I would ever want to see a Bad Boys anything again. I mean, look, Martin Lawrence was doing his own TV series, Martin. I mean, he was very popular, very funny guy.
He had a number of hit movies that were comedies that he was the marquee name as well. So.
That hasn't happened
in the 90s.
Yeah, that hasn't happened. That hasn't
in
happened
the
in
90s.
decades.
Jesus,
so, but you know what's weird to me? Why don't they just keep Joe Carnahan's script? I mean, the guy's an incredible talent. It's like, just hold on to that script. It's not like it's going to age that much in 3 years, and just wait till everybody's schedule clears up and get a new director,
We'll have to wait to see if Bad Boys for Life is going to be a reality or not, but I wouldn't get excited just yet. You could have Jerry Bruckheimer just have this super shared universe of all of his movies. So what if the Bad Boys go back to Alcatraz, and who's there to help them? Nicolas Cage from Con Air.
Yes.
Write that movie, somebody. And then throw it away. It's not going to get made. All right, let's move on to a movie that did get made and is starting to scare a lot of audiences around the world. That would be It.
Yes, it is. When children begin to disappear in the town of Derry, Maine, neighborhood kids band together to square off against Pennywise, an evil clown whose history of murder and violence dates back for centuries.
All right, so I got to finally check this movie out last night. It became one of my most anticipated of the fall once the trailers started coming out, and it did not disappoint me. The review is going to be up on Collider and on Schmoes later on today. I had the pleasure of seeing this movie at a screening next to Josh Macuga. So most of the Collider crew was sitting further back, but Macuga and I went up to close to the front row because he had to see this movie with me because he almost killed me last week. So we were sitting there, and I got to tell you, he's a trooper. He played his heart out. There were screams, like I knew there was going to be screams, but the noises coming out of that human being or something I've never heard before. There was whimpering. There was like dog afraid of lightning whimpering throughout the movie. I could hear him give himself pep talks under his breath. My arm was being punched a lot, but the guy made it through. So damn it, you're a champion, Josh. Congratulations. Wendy, you were also at that screening last night. You had the bird's eye view of Macuga and I, so was that more entertaining than the movie itself to you?
It was in the beginning. I was a little distracted because when Josh gets scared, you saw it in the VR stuff, he throws his hand up like this, but I would only see one fist, so I can only assume where the other hand was death grip on your left arm.
It was either that or covering his eyes.
Oh no.
I mean,
I did that too though.
He was peeking. I could tell he was peeking from the other noises.
Well, not to make him sound like the only loser watching the movie, I also during the movie had several scenes where I watched like this and I was really uncomfortable, and then I ended up curling into a little ball towards the end of the movie, and they gave you press notes with all the director's notes and whatnot. And I crumbled it all up like this, and I was holding it. And then I get home, and I put hand sanitizer on my hands. There's paper cuts all over my hand, and that's how tight I was grasping my notes. It's just, like, for someone who doesn't like clowns, who are frightened of clowns, this is not an easy movie to sit through. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's really well done. I don't need to see it again, though, because I'm not going to be sleeping well for the next week, I don't think.
Awesome.
I think the movie's going to do that to a lot of people. It is definitely a too large corn kind of picture for sure. Jon Schnepp, I know you're seeing this on Thursday. You excited?
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm seeing it with Amy Rose as well.
Yeah.
I was going to go to yesterday's press screening, but we already got advanced tickets, and I was like, I just want to see it with I don't want to see it twice, so I was sort of like, all right. I mean, maybe I do want to see it twice now. I keep hearing how great it is. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm so happy to hear that everybody is really enjoying it because I want a really good horror film, so it looks like we got one.
Dennis, scary clowns, kids, Maine, is this on your radar?
It's definitely on my radar, even though these type of films usually aren't. But the hype behind this, everyone's saying how good it is. We had that the It cast in here for a Schmodown, and just the way those kids interacted together, it kind of has that like Goonies / Stranger Things feel to it. And I'm sure I'm not going to be like Macuga going nuts and crazy, but I definitely am going to be freaked out by this thing.
Well, you never think you're going to go nuts and crazy until you get in there and you see a scary clown. So, Rocha, how are you going to handle it?
Oh, God, I can't wait. I like films that scare the crap out of me. I'm not a big fan of the horror genre because I'm not a big fan of slasher films or the smaller ones. I like stuff that's like really well done, and this looks like it's really well done. And like John, 10 of my friends, we're going Thursday night. We're just going to hold each other as we scream watching this film. So there's certain films that you can still do with your friends that you like enjoy that vibe of going together. And this is one of those ones that I didn't even ask for a +1, which I normally beg Perry for. So because I was like, I want to enjoy this with my friends and get scared out of my mind. And it looks, and I love the book, so I can't wait.
I think this is definitely one you pay to go see with your buddies in a theater. I think that you check this out opening night. I think it's going to crush box office records in September. I think it's going to crush horror movie records. The losers are great. You get that little coming of age vibe. Then you also get a really scary clown that offers literally no McNuggets. All right, let's move on. Buy or sell. The It director is Andy Muschietti. He's working on something new that's, don't worry, still going to probably scare the crap out of us. What do we got?
Deadline reports that Paramount Pictures has acquired the screen rights to Dracul, the first prequel novel authorized by the estate of Bram Stoker, to be developed as a potential directing vehicle down the line for It helmer Andy Muschietti. Written by Dacre Stoker and J.D. Barker, the story is set in 1868, where 21-year-old Bram Stoker meets with an unholy evil that he traps in an ancient tower, all the while documenting the events that will later become the basis for his story, Dracula. No word on a star or when production might be gearing up. Muschietti is set to return to helm the second chapter in the planned 2-part adaptation of It. Schnepp, buy or sell a Dracula prequel directed by Andy Muschietti.
Oh, I buy this so hard. It sounds incredible. I mean, this sounds like a dream come true for a horror fan. Like, this sounds like a perfect melding of Interview with the Vampire with the origin story of how Bram Stoker wrote it. So it just sounds like, and in the hands of this guy, I mean, look, I liked Mama. So this is, I can't wait to see it. So sounds like it's fantastic. Keanu Reeves is not going to be in it. I know he was in that corner screen capture. That's just artwork. That's from Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. He's not going to be in the movie.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a prequel to that version of Dracula either. I mean, this is going to kind of combine the events of Bram Stoker's life with documenting the process of somebody becoming this unholy evil. So it's something very exciting, and I'm a little bit more pumped about it after watching it last night, because I think Andy Muschietti gets how to get scares out of people, but he also gets how to tell a story. I think the narrative in it is one of the strongest features about it. So that going into anything he's doing, if he's sticking in a horror-like genre, I think this has a lot of potential. Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it because of Muschietti and what I'm hearing from it, and I'll have a better judgment after I see the film. But it seems like if they're going to hire him as a director, they're going to go more of the horror route, unlike what's going on with the Universal monster movie thing, where it's kind of more of an action thing. I mean, even the one that wasn't connected to that universe with Luke Evans as Dracula, it was an action movie.
It was
right?
horrible. No, that was just, it was simply a bad movie.
But they
a giant fistful of bats. Get out of here. Get out of here.
so this seems like it's going more in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. This is definitely not part of the Dark Universe. This is going to be a Paramount production that is over Universal. And Rocha, I hate to say it, but after one Mummy movie, I think that is music to my ears that you're going to have a Dracula prequel that is not taking place with the rest of that.
Yeah, and this is a character that people just enjoy. And yeah, Keanu Reeves, no, but Gary Oldman was fantastic in that movie. So if you're going to go do a prequel about this, and I love that it's co-written by the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker. That's awesome. That's like a legacy thing, you know? So the fact that he's going back and exploring this idea from a prequel point of view, the trapping this horror. And you know, Dracula was based in actual fact with Vlad the Impaler and all these things. So there's so much about the character of Dracula that's rich with history. And I love that it's Dracul. Just that name evokes that kind of lunacy and madness of a character, of a creature. So I'm so excited for this. I buy it 1,000%.
The actual Count Dracula, I think, was literally just a dude.
Yeah.
I think he was just like if you go back in time, you're like, oh my God, you're Dracula. He was like, yeah, what's up?
What is problem? It was wine. It's not blood. It's
Why
wine.
are you giving me all this garlic?
What is this all about? I like wooden stakes.
Yeah.
He would be considered hostile way back when
Get off
he
my
was
lawn.
created. And we have a new movie called Hostel. It's also about old events. Tell us about it, Ash.
Fresh off its world premiere at the Telluride Film Festival, the first trailer for director Scott Cooper's Hostels has been released online. The film takes place in 1892 and stars Christian Bale as a legendary army captain who reluctantly agrees to escort a dying Cheyenne war chief and his family back home to the tribal lands. Along the way, they encounter a variety of obstacles that impede their journey. The film also stars Rosamund Pike, Wes Studi, Adam Beach, Ben Foster, and Jesse Plemons. Hostels currently doesn't have a distributor or release date, but that should change very soon. Dennis, buy or sell the first trailer for Hostels?
Oh, it's a big buy for me. We saw the first pick, I think, last week, and you know, based on Scott Cooper, Christian Bale, Ben Foster, Christian Bale worked with on 3:10 to Yuma. Just the whole feel of this trailer, the music, it had an Ennio Morricone style to it. Just the whole feel. I want to see Rosamund Pike because we haven't really seen her in anything big since Gone Girl, and I thought that was like a breakout role for her. So hopefully they don't minimize her and they actually utilize her a lot in this film.
Well, she's certainly utilized a lot in the trailer, and I think this trailer looks fantastic. I think Christian Bale definitely, anytime that guy steps in front of a camera, he is a front runner to win something. The storyline is very, very interesting, and because it's getting so much positive reception coming out of Telluride, then going to Toronto, you think it's got to be positioned for an award contender. I think not just for Christian Bale, I think also keep your eye on Best Supporting Actor for Wes Studi. That guy's had a great career. He's been around a long time. He could finally have that rewarded this year. John Rocha, your thoughts on the trailer?
Yeah, everything about this. I buy it so much. It's like, as a guy of Westerns, you know, as the outlaw, like I love these kinds of films when they do them correctly. And we've already seen a kind of version of this in the remake of 3:10 to Yuma, because Christian Bale is shepherding Russell Crowe to this place where he has to do this stuff with Ben Foster on the other side of things. Wes Studi, absolutely. If you see Last of the Mohicans, he is so powerful in that movie. So to see him coming in to another situation here, I saw this with Wind River, right? Seeing Graham Greene, I think, coming back and doing it like he did in Dances with Wolves. So when they find the Native American actors and they put him in the right roles, I am super happy to see this. And this is dark. This is fantastic. And the DP, Masunaba Takayanagi, I'm hoping to say that right, Takayanagi, just to see the scope that he's playing with and just that whole trailer, it gives you that vibe that you are on this trip and that you you have no idea what's going to happen, but you're going to appreciate the scenery of everything that's going down. So I couldn't be more happy to see this happening all over again.
I think he was also the DP on The Gray, right?
Yeah,
Because
which
he
I
did
love
a lot
too,
of nature
yeah.
films. Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
that because I cheated off your notes. So Jon Schnepp,
Hey.
you buying this like the rest of us?
I'm so buying this. I love the vibe. I was getting a vibe of like The Proposition
Yes.
and Slow West. Like some of my favorite
Slow West
westerns
is
are these like
great.
slow burns where you're like you really can like because when I think of the West, I mean just think how scary that would be. You're just in a wagon. It doesn't even matter if you're like 7, 8 wagons with you. You can get instantly destroyed by weather, by a brutal attack. There's all kinds of. You're just like it was the no man's land. That's kind of how I love seeing those kinds of westerns where it really is a scary place to be. Probably a scary time to be alive in the Wild West. So everything about this, I love. I love Black Mass too. So I think the director's on point. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and if you're helping a dying Cheyenne war chief go back to his homeland, you have enemies on all sides.
Yes.
You know, you literally don't know what group of people is going to be attacking you, but you know you got to keep your head on a swivel. You got to have eyes in the back of your head. This movie looks powerful, looks intense. Check out the trailer for Hostiles if you haven't already seen it. Well, we want to remind you guys, this is not the only show here on Collider Video. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now to check out Heroes is later on today, hosted by this guy right here, Jon Schnepp, and TV Talk is going to be going live, as presuming Josh Macuga survived his sleep last night at 9 a.m. PST this morning. Plus, an all-new episode of Comic Book Shopping is going to be dropping later on today, and Jon Schnepp has a very special guest. Here's a quick clip.
What's up, Sweaties? Jon Schnepp here. I'm standing here with Michael Rooker.
Good to be here, man.
Here's one that Yondu might be able to make an appearance in.
Yeah, it looks a little funky. So you get your knife, right? And you throw your knife in between his legs.
Just have a flip through on that.
Yeah, you flip and you want to keep flipping, right?
Let's talk about Yondu.
They made sure that I understood this was top secret. No one is to know. I'm Mary Poppins, yo!
Yondu himself. Check out Michael Rooker on an all-new episode of Comic Book Shopping. Keep your eyes open. It's going to be dropping a little bit later on today, right here at Collider Video. And right now, you guys can check out the Celebrity Schmodown with the cast of The It. We mentioned it with the cast of The It. You can't see The It? It's got a bunch of losers in it. The Losers Club came here to perform in movie trivia, and they were really, really impressive. I think you guys are going to dig that if you have not already seen it. All right, we are going to move on to Mailbag. Before we get to that, I want to remind you guys to go ahead and start tweeting us. We will take your live Twitter questions at the end of this here program. At Collider Video is our handle. And anytime you can email us collidervideo@gmail.com. We'll either answer your email on our weekday show, Movie Talk, or on our weekend show's Mailbag. Ashley, what do we got today?
Paige writes, "Hello, Collider crew. Jeepers Creepers 3 recently came out with a TV spot, but the director, Victor Salva, is coming along with some baggage. My question is, do you think it's possible to enjoy someone's work without condoning their previous actions in their personal lives? Or do you believe people are boycotting this movie based on Victor Salva's past? Thanks for taking the time to read this question, Paige. P.S. Can someone give Josh Macuga a hug after his torture with the VR experience?"
You guys been through a lot this week. Hugs aplenty. Paige, it's a great question you ask because it really boils down to that age-old debate: can you separate art from the people creating it? And in this particular case, Victor Salva went to prison for doing a lot of very, very disgusting, vile things. And I don't think that I am mentally, emotionally strong enough to be able to separate those things. I think that when you talk about somebody like going to prison for what he did, it's very hard to rehabilitate something like that. I want to give everybody all the opportunity in the world to heal themselves from whatever they deal with, but not in this case as far as a support. I feel like if I'm going to see a movie, particularly from somebody who is a director, that you feel like you're paying money, so in a way you are supporting their product. You may not be supporting what they stand for, what they believe in, but you are helping their career out. And I don't agree with helping this guy's career out, so I probably will not be seeing Jeepers Creepers Part 3 Besides the fact I don't really care about another Jeepers Creepers movie, I really don't want to see the creeper who directed it. How about you, John?
Yeah, no, and I do think it's a case-by-case basis. I don't think you can be generalized, and I think that's what we as film goers have our own internal process about coming to terms with it. Because a lot of people do believe Woody Allen did the same thing and was never convicted and was never found. A lot of people do believe he went in with Sunyi really young and do so. I'm not speaking knowledgeably, so please don't sue me. But I'm saying. I've read a number of articles about this, so you don't know. Ronan Farrow has come out and had issues with this. Roman Polanski is another one that you can confront because the girl that was she's saying, like, we've all moved past it. I've forgiven him. But people hold on to it. So I think it's a case-by-case basis. This situation, I wasn't going to see Jeepers Creepers 3 anyway, knowing that he's a pedophilia convicted, went to jail. No way, because it's rehabilitate means you go back to a state of mind that you were in before. But most people who engage in pedophilia have never had a state of mind where they don't want to do that. So rehabilitation is not necessarily 100% possible. So I don't want to give this guy any credibility because the more you give him credit, he's going to feel his power and he may go back to these ways again. So no way am I going to go see this movie, even more so now.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the Michael Vick situation where it's like that's somebody who was clearly engaged in a lot of dogfighting activities and that by all accounts it appears that he was able to be rehabilitated at some point. And some of that, it cannot be discounted, is because I'm a huge football fan. And I really like watching the guy play football. In the case of Jeepers Creepers 3, I don't like anything this director did from a personal standpoint, and I also didn't really need to see Jeepers Creepers 3. So, Dennis, it's a pretty easy decision for me. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the subject at large, it's a tough question. There's actually no real right answer. I mean, I personally try and separate the artist for like what his personal life is and his work. You talked about Roman Polanski. You know, it was with all that happened with him. I tried to watch The Pianist without thinking about that stuff, and I actually thought The Pianist was very well done. You talk about someone like Mel Gibson here. Like, you're not going to criticize anyone if they don't want to watch his movies. But at the same time, I feel like if you do, that's your right as well. So something like this, yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to see Jeepers Creepers anyway, so it's easy for me to say that. But when it comes to artists in large, I try and separate it the best I can.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't think anybody would harbor that much judgment either way. If you really want to go see Jeepers Creepers 3, then by all accounts, that is your right. And I don't look at it as you're supporting this person. I just personally don't feel like paying money to see something like that this dude made. How about you, Schnepp?
Well, I mean, you guys all brought up a lot of interesting points. I think it's all about accountability. I mean, like, I'll use Michael Vick's as a good point. For me, I can never look at that guy again and not see him torturing animals.
Right.
And I don't care how much rehabilitation he's gone through. He's a stain to being a human being. At least in my accountability, I don't care if he went to prison.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter to me. It's like for years you tortured little animals. Like, I hope to God that he's not doing that anymore. And I hope that he's at least telling all of his friends who were a party to that that's not the right thing to do, because that means that not only just the prison time, but the reflection time of what he was doing, he learned something. So I think if you look at the world that we live in, and when people are caught doing something horrible, and then they go to jail and hopefully are rehabilitated, you should give them a chance. But does that mean that you need to support what they do? Absolutely not. So in the terms of the Jeepers Creepers director, it was pedophilia and being a director and using his power to do horrible things to young boys. And then you look at his later films like Powder and Jeepers Creepers 2, and it was all young boys who were in those films. So I feel like I'm not going to say anything like, I don't know what he's doing. I feel like, hey, look, if you read articles, I saw Jeepers Creepers 2, and I remember reading some articles that he's he went to prison. But you can't really. It's every single person has to make their own judgment call as to whether they want to support something like that or not. So obviously, the producers of Jeepers Creepers 3 want to make money, and they see like, oh, we have this franchise, and here's the guy, the original person, and we're going to give him a shot. So it's up to everybody out there if they want to see the film.
Yeah, I just don't know if he owns the rights to Jeepers Creepers. Like, did you have to wait for him to get out of prison to make a Jeepers Creepers 3? Could you not have done this with anybody else? Like, he's the only guy that can make Jeepers Creepers 3. Okay, so if you want to go see it, have at it. I'm not going to judge you, but probably not going to check out the movie. All right, let's move on to Twitter questions. This is where Wendy Lee Zaney is our gatekeeper. You guys have been tweeting us all day, so let's get some good ones. What do we got?
This first one comes from Jonathan Peck, who writes, "What are your thoughts on the first image of Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury?"
Ooh, good. I'm glad somebody asked us. I hope everybody at the panel got to check it out, because this is what I hoped I would see from the first image of the Freddie Mercury biopic. It looks amazing. I know some people are saying that, oh, he's too small to play Freddie Mercury, or such a towering figure on stage. For my money, I think he's the best rock frontman that has ever walked the face of the planet, and I think that image looks pretty damn spot on. That's Freddie.
Yeah, I gotta agree. That's Freddie, and I will fully admit I was one of those people that had reservations about it, but it's a picture. So if we're judging the picture, it looks fantastic. He definitely looks like Freddie in this picture. We'll see once we do a trailer, like we saw with Christian Bale. We saw his great picture. Then we see the Hostel trailer. Like, okay, that works. Now we'll see what happens when they release a trailer for this, if he's really the right guy. But right now, it looks good.
We got to see some moves. We got to see. We got to hear the voice. Dennis, based on this picture, how do you?
Yeah, I thought it was an older picture of Freddie, you know, and then I was excited about this project before when they had Sacha Baron Cohen on board, and they got how do you pronounce his name? Rami Malek. Yeah, getting him on board, and I thought it was I think it's a good fit. But like you said, we got to hear the singing and the dancing and see how that works.
Josh Schnepp, did this picture rock you?
This picture certainly rocked me. Under pressure. It's amazing. I mean, I think he's a great actor. And then, man, he looks like Freddie Mercury, at least in these photos. Yeah. I can't believe Bryan Singer's directing it. I think he's a giant fan of Queen. And I got a chance to talk to Bryan a couple months ago, and he told me all about him working with Brian May, helping do a bunch of different crazy stuff. So I really am excited to see this, doc.
Well, tie your mother down. Freddie's on his bicycle, and he looks like a champion. What's our next question?
Next one comes from Chris Muller, who writes, "What is it about Daniel Day-Lewis's performance which makes him so acclaimed? I've yet to see any of his films. Thanks."
Ah, man. It's more of a question of which Daniel Day-Lewis movie do you start with. I would actually recommend Last of the Mohicans. It's not only the first time I saw him on the big screen, or any time for that matter, but it's a very powerful performance. But the movie's also great, because sometimes Daniel Day-Lewis has a tendency to just be so good that he might overpower the actual material you're watching. But I think it's partly the commitment to the role that he's playing, and also just the craft of being an actor is something that I think you could argue is unparalleled in his generation at being able to do. So, Schnepp, what is it about Daniel Day-Lewis that makes him so special at cobbling shoes?
Yeah, because he's a cobbler.
That's it.
I think it's that the craft alone of making a shoe allows him to inhabit different roles. He's inhabiting different shoes. He's like, now I'm a boot. Now my other left foot. See what I did? Bam. So check out that movie. I mean, yeah, look. I mean, no one's ever going to be able to not drink a milkshake and think of that guy again. So, I mean, he's great in Lincoln. He's a fantastic actor. He's like a one-of-a-kind actor. So,
Dennis, what is it about Double Day-Lewis that makes him so special, and which movie are you sending this writer to see first?
I mean, my favorite performance of his, out of the many fantastic ones he's had, is There Will Be Blood. He just inhabits the role. He just immerses himself into that character for such a long period of time. And like you said, his commitment to it, you start believing like he believes it and you believe it. Like Lincoln, I thought, oh, they took a time machine back in time and they got Abraham Lincoln. They had him star in this movie. Because like that's how much I believed him as that character. And I think in his mind, too, he becomes that character.
John Rocha,
yeah,
you have acted before.
I have once in a while.
Are you as good as Daniel Day? Are you ready to say you're better than Daniel Day-Lewis?
I'm nowhere near Daniel Day-Lewis, which is why I'm sitting here. No, listen, this Daniel Day-Lewis is... he's an actor's actor in that you watch him, and if you've even remotely been bitten by the acting bug, you marvel at his genius, at his expertise, and in a way that isn't showy. It isn't him showing, oh, hey, look how much research I've done. I've lost 60 pounds for this. I gained 30 pounds for this. He's just an actor's actor, and the technique, the approach, the respect that he has for the craft, you marvel at that and go, I wish I had that kind of approach. And the fact that people have to talk him into doing these movies sometimes because he knows how much it takes out of him, because that's how dedicated he is. You can do nothing but respect that. I agree, Lincoln. I agree, There Will Be Blood. I'm a big fan of Last of the Mohicans and In the Name of the Father, some of his smaller ones, because he's transporting you into those times by just his usage of the words and his conveying the movements and the physicality and the speech patterns of people at that time. So There's so much respect he gives to the profession and to the roles when he takes them on, and to the piece itself overall. And he elevates some of the lesser of his movies, like The Boxer and The Crucible. He elevates those movies with his performances.
Yeah, I mean, did you really not have to use a cell phone the entire shoot of Lincoln? Like, I mean, I get it. You're in character. It's adorable. I think there's a tiny bit of it that's like, look at what I'm doing for this role.
But Lincoln, Lincoln couldn't use a cell phone.
I get it.
Mark, Ellis, think about
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
But if you're the best actor that ever walked the face of the earth, you should be able to get into character
no.
and then be texting at the
committed.
same time.
Lincoln couldn't text, all right?
He could write on parchment.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah. With a quill. With a quill.
All I'm saying is that Will Ferrell never had to take a whole day and get into character. Eddie Murphy never had to be the Clumps for 6 months.
Why do you have to use
He showed
comedians?
up, he became a
Why
Clump.
are you using comedians? Why are you using comedians?
Use a cell phone, Double D. Come on, man. All right, let's do one more question and call it a day.
Okay, this one comes from Jesus, who writes.
What?
Jesus. That's his Twitter handle.
Okay.
Jesus.
All right. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Well, this is indeed an honor. I mean, I knew he was going to come back at some point. I didn't know it'd be online. But
Hello.
You guys, Jesus is speaking, and he wants to know, what is a movie no one has heard of that you're constantly recommending to people? In my case, it's Ginger Snaps.
Ooh. This is the word of the Lord. I would say movie that nobody's heard of. I like when I get to go see movies and I sit in a theater and I haven't seen a trailer for anything. I have no idea what's about to happen. And I did that recently with Good Time, and that was pretty incredible. So you can check that out right now. There's also a small movie starring Chris Evans called Puncture. And it's really good. It's based on a true story about a legal battle that went down in Texas, and it's got Brett Cullen is also in it. If you don't know who Brett Cullen is, he's a great actor. A lot of strong performances in that, and a riveting story. So check out Puncture. What do you got?
I got one. Everybody knows I'm a weird, crazy MFer. So for me, it's a French film that I discovered randomly when I discovered that IFC had a channel. And this is back in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. And I watched this incredible French movie with Gerard Depardieu called All the Mornings of the World, or Tous les matins du monde. I hope I got that right.
Is that your opener on a date?
No. But it's a fantastic, because it stars his son as a younger version of himself, and he's reflecting back on his life. And it's this incredibly powerful and tragic love story juxtaposed with him learning how to play the cello. So, like, I know, I get it. It's probably one of those highfalutin. It's not. It's actually really interesting and powerful. And it's one of those films that I tell everyone about, because everyone's like, Cyrano de Bergerac and Green Card. No, there's a thing. But when he started doing these more powerful French films, Tous les matins du monde is fantastic. And if you've seen Cyrano de Bergerac, the same two actors and actress are in this film. So I recommend that highly. And it's one that no one talks about when they talk about great foreign films.
Oh. It's not too late, ladies. Send in your applications now. Jon Schnepp.
I was going to say, you just reminded me of Manon of the Spring.
Oh, yeah.
Because Gerard Depardieu and Emmanuel Béard.
Yep.
So check that out. And then also check out Matewan. That's a really good John Sayles film. Check that out. Yeah. That's one that no one's ever heard of and should have seen. And then just one for the records, Zardoz. Look it up.
All right,
Sean
Dennis
Connery.
Zen.
Actually, it's also a French film, A Prophet. Have you seen
Yes.
that? It's basically almost like Godfather in prison. It's about this French youth that gets sent away for a few years, and then he rises through the ranks of all the mobs and all the gangsters in the prison, and eventually, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but a lot of Godfather-like stuff happens in the film.
They're all going French movies, so I'm going Repossessed with Leslie Nielsen. It's a spoof of The Exorcist, and kind of fell through the cracks there between the Naked Guns and the Hot Shots of the world. Check out Repossessed. Linda Blair comes back. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Movie Talk. Thank you guys for joining us. I want to thank everybody up here at the panel tolerating me today. First off, Dennis Zen, where can the kids find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter @ThinkHero, on Instagram, Dennis.tzng.
Next up, Jon Schnepp.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Jon Schnepp, and then Heroes later today, and check out Comic Book Shopping.
And the Outlaw John, Stephen Rocha.
Hey guys, you can always find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And again, on the Top 10 show on the SK Plus podcast channel. We just did Top 10 Stephen King films, so let that get you psyched up to go see it this week.
And over on the news desk, Ashley Mova.
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Ashley Mova. Happy Wednesday, guys.
And last but certainly not least, Wendy Lee Zaney. Where can the kids find you?
The Movie Couple channel on YouTube, at Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
I am merely Mark Ellis. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like I said, I will be in New York in October and Philly in a couple of weeks. You can get tickets at markellislive.com. TV Talk is up next. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, for Collider Movies.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.